Hey, everybody. What's up? What's up? Anthony Morrison here, and welcome to another one of our WebinarFuel client spotlights. Today, we are putting the spotlight on my friend, Shawn Casey, who has been using the WebinarFuel software. And if you're new to this series, and this is one of the first times you've seen this, the reason that we've done this is we kind of look through WebinarFuel and we see those that are excelling, people that are doing a lot of sales, people that are making a lot of money with our software. And what we want to do is jump on an interview with them, talk to them about their business, what they're doing, how they're doing it, what features they like, so that you can see how that might impact your business if you're considering using the WebinarFuel software. So again, today with me, Shawn Casey. Now, Shawn, I saw that you guys have done over 6 figures now, so over $100,000 through the WebinarFuel software.
Yes, it's been great. It was easy to set up, easy to use. We had never actually used automated webinar software before, and it was a short learning curve, as everything is to get started, but we were able to jump in, and I don't know if it was a day later we were able to start sending traffic. I mean, it was pretty easy. Copy and embed the widgets and go.
That's what I think, and so that's kind of interesting, because a lot of people that I've interviewed for these client spotlights, they've done automated webinars, and so they've switched from another platform, and so they can tell me all the reasons why WebinarFuel is better. Otherwise, obviously, they wouldn't have made the switch, right? Or they wouldn't have stuck with it. But you're a little bit different in that you've been on the internet. We were talking about it the other day, forever, and yet you haven't really ever done automated webinars, which I found really interesting. But you can give us, kind of from the standpoint of somebody who hasn't done a webinar before, how impactful this was for your business. So you were able to be able to do over $100,000, obviously, with automated webinars. My assumption is you wouldn't have been able to make that 100,000 or do that 100,000 in sales if you were not doing automated webinars.
Well, right. I think that's true. And we've done a lot of promotions, and I mean, just without getting long into background, I've been doing, online for more than 20 years. So, when teleseminars came out, they were great. When webinars came out, they were even better. And we've done a lot of things with driving traffic to webinar replay pages, but not to the actual automated webinar process. So, this was different for us. And, a big part of the way that's worked and allowed us to run it, that's different, is that instead of just grabbing leads and sending them to a replay page and pushing people onto a follow-up list, with the automated system in WebinarFuel, we're able to know what those leads have done. So, who watched the webinar, who bought, who got partway through the webinar, and be able to follow up with them much more specifically with what those leads are doing, than if we're just, capture a lead in an email list and say, go watch this webinar.
Right.
And so you can see that the results of that in the conversion rate in the end for what is a $9.97 product, are higher than if we just drop them straight to a replay page.
Right. And that's one of the things I always try to get people to focus on is if you aren't doing or haven't done an automated webinar, and you have a product that's a higher price product, $497, $597 in some industries, personal development and such, even $297 is considered a higher ticket. Anytime you're selling something that's a higher ticket product for the industry or niche that you're in, being able to see what how much of that webinar they've seen or how much of that content they've consumed is always going to give you the opportunity to follow up with them in a better manner, right? Speaking to them based on where they're at in that consumption rate, right, of your content. So I would assume then that you obviously like the built-in notifications that we've built in, where it's different buckets for what they've done, what they've seen.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we definitely used and is easy to set up are the automatic, notifications, the follow-up, or, hey, it's, the webinar started 5 minutes ago. Why aren't you here? All that stuff is really easy to set up. And we used all of those to try to drive, more attendance at the actual live webinar, and then to follow up on either people who completely skipped with a different message, or people that saw part of the webinar to get them back to the actual webinar. The when it comes to, automation and marketing systems, I think one of the biggest things that newer people miss probably with webinars and all marketing, and maybe more experienced people sometimes do, is the fact that what we really want to have happen and what you think happens when you watch someone's commercial is, a guy creates a product, he runs an ad, and immediately, he spends $10 in an ad and makes $100 every 10 seconds. And that's the whole marketing system, right? That, I spent $10, people bought, I'm done. And that's not actually the way it works. I wish it was that easy. You and I have never told people it's that easy, right? I mean, yes, you can make a lot of money doing this, and we do, but that if you want to maximize your results, it's, you're going to run an ad and you're going to generate a lead, and then you're going to have follow-up for a variety of products and services to that lead, whether they're your products or somebody else's. And if you're going to focus on selling, a product for whatever it is, just call it a high ticket product, you've got to follow up with the people, because a lot of them aren't going to buy right away. They didn't have time to watch the webinar. They got distracted. The mom had to go run off and take care of the kids because they interrupted her, or they had to go to dinner. And, we think, oh, we have this awesome webinar. People should sit there for the next 2 hours and focus on this, and don't look at TV and don't do. It's like, okay, it doesn't work that way, right? I mean, right. They get interrupted just like we do. And so the follow-up and the retargeting and everything else is what makes a huge, huge difference in the results that you're going to get. And the ability to easily do that inside of WebinarFuel makes it ideal to do that kind of thing, because without that, you're not going to get, the same results that you would if you don't do that. And I think you as a marketer creating a piece of software versus a guy who's like, hey, I should sell software, right? Who has no idea what it takes to actually sell anything. There's really a big difference, because, I could tell from both the marketing that you do, because I'm on your every email list you have, probably multiple times, but also just, going through the software and the function and features that are there. It's that, it's set up for marketers to use to make sales. And the only reason we're doing this is to make sales. I mean, it's not because, we're bored and we want to play with more software. It's, we want to make sales. We want to make them as easily as possible. We want to make them as automated as possible. And I don't want to scare people away from getting started with this if they're newer, and say, they'll be like, oh my God, I have all this like automation and I've got to do all this. I mean, you can set up one piece at a time as you go, but in the end, if those pieces are not available to you, you're going to have to go create them on your own. And it's much harder, if you don't have 20 years experience to do this on your own, than it is.
It's funny, because a couple of things that you mentioned there that I want to touch on. One was like, if you're new and you want to create your own webinar and you think, oh my gosh, I got to do all these automations. I've always looked at it like this. It's very rare in marketing that you find like a lever that you can pull that just changes the game. Like where you go from, I'm not making any sales, I make so many sales, I don't have to do anything else. Usually it's a series of small little levers, right? That give little boosts along the way. And one of the things that we built into WebinarFuel was the ability to pull those levers when you're ready, right? Right. And never have it be that I need to pull this lever, but it doesn't exist, or I can't do it, or I have to go do 5,000 other things to hack it together and try to make it work. Right. One of those things kind of goes back to you speaking about, just following up with people and making sure that the momentum doesn't stop after they just attend the webinar or register for the webinar. We built in an integration with Facebook, a native integration with Facebook that allows you to populate your Facebook audiences based on where people are in your process. So you can have a Facebook audience of people that have registered, a Facebook audience of people that have attended but not purchased, a Facebook audience of people that attended and saw your CTA, and so on and so forth. So that now when a person registers for your webinar, they see an ad on Facebook reminding them to get on it, or if they've been on it, reminding them to buy. And then of course, just the built-in like notifications in general, right? Being able to email, SMS. And one of the big things that we've seen, really move the needle for a lot of people is push notifications. the push notifications really became, I think, super popular with Clubhouse, right? It's the only way that they really communicate. And having the ability to send push notifications to people will increase your show rate and also increase your click-through rates on your follow-ups, right? Because it's such a native thing on your phone. You just tap it and boom, it's done. So we've seen that really working well for us. And I mean, for you doing $100,000 on your first automated webinar, right? I think it's like 106,000 or so. So you've done over 100,000 on your first automated. I think that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, I know, we're pleased. And if we didn't get distracted, because I know somebody's gonna be like, well, why don't you do more? Well, since I'm off running multiple businesses, it's just a question of, what we're actually focused on. And that is why we haven't done more with it, which we should. And one day we'll get back and focus on it again. But yeah, and it allowed us to get set up and do stuff and create things that we wouldn't have been able to do without the software. The cost of the software pales in comparison to what, there is the opportunity to make from it. And honestly, I don't remember what the software costs, so it doesn't matter. People that are watching this are in it anyway. But, it's, the like you said, it's the leverage that you get from being able to do this kind of thing. And, and if someone is newer, and I'm sure a lot of people signing up and getting started with you are, the biggest thing I would suggest is just, get a webinar recorded, start, getting some traffic to it and get results. Biggest thing you can do wrong is trying to create the perfect marketing machine and spending 3 months before you ever get any traffic to your webinar. Because first of all, you'll never have the perfect marketing machine. None of us do.
Right.
We have marketing machines that make money, but they're not perfect. That like Agora might have the perfect marketing machine, but they have like 1,100 employees. There's a reason for that. Okay. Yeah. The rest of us, we're making stuff that works and we're improving it as we go, but they're by no means perfect.
Yeah.
And if you're searching for that, you're just never going to get started and do anything. And, I can tell you for certain, having known Anthony for a long time, that, the way that we approach stuff is we want to get anything out and test it as fast as we can to find out if it's going to work before we spend a whole lot of money trying to make follow-up sequences and other stuff and everything else, because, your great marketing idea that's going to absolutely kill it. I have a lot of those that didn't work.
Yep. And that's the thing.
Ones that do work are awesome, but
and that's the whole point. Like, we tried to make WebinarFuel simple. And I think you kind of alluded to the fact that it was really simple. Within a day, you can have your webinar live, right? And then from there, you start to tweak. And I think that's the biggest thing that you guys can take away from this interview and from talking with Shawn, is that, like, it doesn't have to be perfect when you set it up and when you launch it. But with WebinarFuel, we give you the ability to then start pulling those levers, and each one you pull improves your results. And so you continue to pull those slowly and methodically over time so that you're not overwhelmed. And you're also able to test and be able to see this worked and that didn't. I pulled this lever, it made my results worse, so I'm gonna push it back up, right? And you continue to test your way into what is as close to the perfect marketing machine as you can possibly get. And that's how you really scale, and that's how you really are able to make these things super successful and super profitable. That's what Shawn has done. That's what I've done. That's what other clients have done. And we obviously hope that that's what you will do as well. So Shawn, I end every one of my interviews with these two questions, and that is, number one is, what is the number one feature or opportunity in WebinarFuel, that you feel like has helped you succeed the most with the software? And then, would you suggest that others that are doing automated webinars start using WebinarFuel and give it a try?
So probably, I think the thing that I like the best is how easy it is to set up automations and integrate, whether it's push notifications that are coming out of the actual software, or the fact that we can integrate into our email lists and everything else, very, very easily. This isn't, we didn't need to get our programmer involved, and we have programmers and we didn't need to get them involved. So that's how easy it was. Because if it's hard at all, I don't actually think I just send an email off and someone else has to do it. And I didn't have to do that. So that's good. The other thing but I got to pick a second thing, and that is the easy ability to split test. Because I know, for people that are doing a lot of webinars, being able to split test and see what the results are from a different webinar file, video file, makes a big difference. And, we were able to find out some interesting stuff from split testing the actual video file, because after watching people's comments and the feedback, we created a new version of the webinar that took out some stuff that people were like, oh, I don't know what, blah, 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 right? So it's really interesting that we did that. And the results were, number one, that the stick rate of people, how long they stayed on the webinar, didn't move at all, which is really weird. Like, it didn't get better, didn't get worse, just didn't move, but conversion went down. So people were whining about stuff, but they were whining about it. And then, but more people were buying on the version that people whined during the comments. So, don't take it personally when people whine during webinars, because, you showed it to enough people, there will be people whining about something. You showed a picture of your kids and they don't care about your kids. I mean, you got to not, the feedback that's important on your webinars is people buying, not the whiny people. And then, should other people try it? Absolutely. It's easy to get stuck when you're using something and be like, oh, I know this and I'm comfortable, and, and it is what it is. But if you're actually serious about, running, this is a core piece of your business, then you need the best possible solution. And, my partner, Brian, and I develop a lot of software. We have a lot of different software programs, and all of them come from where Anthony's coming from with WebinarFuel, which is the idea that, we're marketers and we have guys that create software to do things that marketers and people selling want to do. And that's just, I think, the most important thing when you look at the way that WebinarFuel works today. The improvements that I've seen Anthony make over the last, several months that he's had it out, and things that I'm sure are coming, because the other thing you've got here, Anthony is running auto webinars himself. And when he runs into something, it's like, oh, wow, I wish we could do this. He's got the person that can go, make that actually happen. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, Anthony's, core programming comes from America, and not that it may, America programmers are better than anybody else, but what's her name? Letitia, right?
Yeah, Letitia.
Yeah. I mean, so she's been with Anthony a long, long time. I met her at Anthony's brother Adrian wedding, like 5 years ago in Hawaii. Yeah. I mean, long time ago. And she had been with him a long time. Anyone who's
20
been
years
employed
now
with you and flown to a wedding in Hawaii, I mean, it's close, not going anywhere, right? And so the stability of the software and the support are super important, because so much online software gets created by someone who's got some low-paid outsourced programming team. And, it's like, oh, we have the latest, greatest thing, and this is going to kill it and everything else. And all they're doing is creating something that's good enough so they can market it. And they're not going to be around in 6 months or a year, updating it, improving it, fixing bugs that come up because stuff on the internet changes. Like, oh, we have an integration with Facebook. Facebook changes their API like every week and doesn't tell anybody. And they get to do that because they're worth, 150 billion or whatever, right? So all that stuff is really, really important when you want software that works today, going to keep working, going to get improved, going to continue to add features, and going to give you the best possible chance to make the most sales. So that was my really short answer.
Gosh, I love it. I'm just going to take that little clip. I'm just going to put it somewhere where everybody can see it. Hey, listen. First of all, congrats on $100,000 on your first ever automated webinar.
Thank you.
That is awesome. And we look forward to you continuing to use the platform, build on it, generate more sales, and of course, give us more feedback. So I appreciate you being here and letting me talk to you about your business. For those of you that are watching this, if you haven't yet joined WebinarFuel, the links are all over the place. You can get an account, get started. The only way you can have success is if you get started. We're here to help you. Shawn, of course, has already told you the reasons why it's worked well for him. If you identify with those, take action, join us, and we'll help you build your webinar as well. Thanks again, Shawn, for being here.
Hey, good to see you.